That's her mezcal face.
Yeah.
10:90. Hello, and welcome to another edition of the EmPower Hour, brought to you by the EmPower Plant by Facing Brooks. So welcome. This week we have an exciting topic because we're in the holiday season now and everybody's thinking about how to be charitable and how to make sure their contributions go the further. So we've got an exciting guest today, Renee Miller from the City Walk Urban Mission. She's going to tell us about what she does and how your contributions go so far in the community that you love so much. As usual, joined by my law partners and our marketing director, Lori Finn. She's here. I've got Greg Bird, our production manager. He's watching everything and making sure we don't do anything stupid, not too stupid. And then Rose Caswick is back. Rose had to miss a session or so because she was working. She was doing mediation. Rose, welcome back. Carrie, and I don't know if Carrie's going to come, and I know Kimmy has children issues today, like most empowered women do. So that's how we go, and we just roll with it. Rose, welcome back, and tell us about this drink.
So this drink is it's a Negroni, which is usually made with Campari, sweet vermouth, and gin. This one substitutes the mezcal for the gin, and it's not good.
It's terrible. What is mezcal?
It's a tequila derivative. It's made of agave like tequila, but it's like a different part of the tequila process, I think, is how it works.
Am I sensing a smoky?
It is a little smoky. The Campari is also kind of bitter. So the drink is supposed to honor Alison Bechdel, who is
let's talk about the person.
Let's forget the drink and talk about the person.
And let's switch to
switch to something nice. She writes comic book artist and author. She wrote the comic that turned into the musical Fun Home. And she's famous for something called the Bechdel test. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a way to like sort of look at representation in media of women. So it's you pass the Bechdel test if there's more than two female characters who talk to each other about something other than a man. And so it's kind of fun to pay attention to, surprised by how not rare it is, but not exactly common either. It's like you'll have, male detectives talking about the case, and then one woman or two women show up, but they're only talking about their husbands or whatever. So it's kind of interesting to pay attention to if you think about it.
I 100% dig that. I 100% dig her. The book says one I don't think we could promote. I think this is the one we may need to like put a warning.
Yeah, throw that one away. The book says the cocktail is supposed to combine 3 types of liquor which happily mingle together. I don't think that's true.
Threesomes never work. I think we know that. It's not nature.
So
no.
Valiant effort.
It's cute. It's a smoke. We'll save this for Gary Jordan. He's an empowered man who works with us in many ways, and he is a tequila aficionado. And I think he will enjoy this. So I think we need to just put this on.
I'll save one for him.
For him, and get back to the focus of the drink, which is, we don't need no men. But seriously, we need men, we need everybody, and we need everybody right now at this time of year to give and be open and generous, because there's never been a greater need, I don't think. Renee, tell us who you are, what your passion is, why you've chosen this as your profession, and what you all do.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, everybody watching. My name is Renee Miller, and I'm the founder and executive director of City Walk Urban Mission. And we have evolved a lot since we started. I would say that the reason that I chose this ministry as a vocation is because I had a really hard start to life. As a child, just grew up in a terrible family and a terrible amount of abuse, and did not have any identity outside of that. And so was very unhappy to the point of self-destructing and just not even wanting to be alive. And so that was my early adulthood. And someone was able to minister to me in that state and said a sentence that I will never forget, because I had never heard anything like it. And they said, Renee, God loves you enough to meet you right where you are, but too much to let you stay there.
Love
And
it.
I never heard of a God that ever wanted to meet me where I was. I felt like, well, I got to clean myself up and he don't notice me or whatever. And I had some people really pour into me at a really crucial moment. And then when I had that aha moment and I got to a place of stability when I was about 25, 26 years old, I really evaluated my life and I said, I want my pain in the past to mean something. Otherwise, I mean, I spent about a year after that just kind of being angry of, well, why did I have to go through all of that? What was the purpose in
Right.
that? And
Right.
I prayed that I was kind of angry with God, if I could just be really honest, like, hey, you saw all this, where were you? And I changed my prayer at some point in my 20s and I said, Lord, if you'll give purpose to my pain, then I'll stop being mad at you. But suffering just for the sake of suffering, I'm really not, that's not sitting well with me.
Right.
Maybe I'll pray holy prayers. I don't, I just talk to God like we're having it out. Uh, and sometimes, back then even like over tequila. So now it's over red eye coffee. And sometimes the Lord has coffee with me and like he just spits it out like Renee, I can't even believe what you're saying. But I digress. So person after person would show up in my life and I would have that mindset of I want to look for people who are hurting like I was hurting. And so then I would wake up every day and my prayer would be, show me, open my eyes to the people who need you, open my eyes to somebody who's hurting, maybe that somebody that I work with or I'm going to interact with, somebody at a grocery store, somebody in traffic who I can just show any amount of love to, and maybe they will feel better about their life and it'll save their life or their family.
Yeah.
And so I did that. And then I really felt a strong call to ministry when I was in my early 30s. And we didn't have any formal training for that. I had a little bit of seminary. I had knew nothing about running a nonprofit, getting support. I came from more of a business background. And excuse me. So the first go around, I kind of crashed and burned. No, I really crashed and burned. And I was like, well, why did I fail if I was doing good things and I was doing the right things? Why didn't it just work? And then, I kind of had one of those have it out with God at times again. And I was called once more to ministry, and so was my husband. And so we founded City Walk in 2012. And we are a church, but it was never in the traditional sense of we go get a building and we fill it twice a week and we have a sermon and some songs and we go about. So we really wanted to be missionaries, but local. And we really feel like, abroad missions are wonderful and they're needed, but that's not where we were called. Like we saw so much need in our own communities. And I just said, Lord, just send us the people that nobody else wants, because there are, some things are a little bit easier. I know everybody has their hard situations, but where are the gaps? I cannot stand duplication of effort. So I was like, show me where the gaps are. I don't want to try to do something somebody else is doing. Like who's left out? Send me those people. And so the Lord was faithful and he did. And there's more men who are experiencing homelessness than women. There are more men coming out of prison than women. There are more men with heavy felony backgrounds. And so my husband and I both started ministering to men. We wanted to open transitional housing for men coming out of prison with a work and reentry program. And that's where City Walk was birthed. And in fact, our first house for the men coming out of prison was our house because we were so broke. Stop me if I talk too much or too long.
Please. No,
but
please.
I'm going to give you the cliff notes here. So in that gap between ministry, where we had stopped because we felt like we failed, we were poorer than poor. I mean, peanut butter on a spoon. And I would go to the gas pump and be like, I have to get it to the penny or it's going to bounce a check, and those kind of fears. And you're always worried if the lights are going to be cut off. And it's not that we didn't work. And I was so proud. Like, I'm not going to a food pantry. I'm not applying for benefits. I am working. And it didn't matter how much we worked. We didn't have a work problem. We didn't have a spending problem. We just had an income problem.
Yeah.
And so we still wanted to serve the Lord in all of this. Meanwhile, someone in our family got caught up in the legal system, and it was not because they committed a crime. It was you're all our attorneys, and you see sometimes the law works for you and sometimes it doesn't, but this person was really close to our family, and it was all fabricated, but this person caught themselves in this web, or they were caught in this web. And it was one of those, hey, just tell the truth, but that didn't work, and then you get bad advice, and then all of this stuff, ended with someone being on probation for a crime they didn't commit. But in those meetings and in those situations where this person's at probation, they're seeing other people whose lives are hurting. And we were praying, well, Lord, why is this happening in our family? And then finally, one day we prayed, well, we're not going to ask why. We're going to say, what? You've allowed this to happen for some reason. So what can we do with it to honor you? And that's the question the Lord was working for. He's like, well, now I can get somewhere with you, Renee. You're going to minister to these people that you're seeing. And we ministered to so many people on probation, and not everybody's innocent, but I think it took somebody else to go in and see. Some are, some aren't, some people have trauma.
Let me stop you there and ask you a couple of things, Renee. So many people have faith at the core of their mission when it comes to helping other people. But then, like you said, sometimes as much as you believe, things don't work out. And so I wonder, you said you had it out with God, but how do you maintain your faith, when things aren't going well, and it doesn't look like all the good works and all the praying and doing the right thing is getting you where you need to be? How did you and your husband maintain your faith and your mission?
That's a wonderful question. We've not been perfect in that. And I'm just going to share real raw, like it's not a pretty story. So, the real Renee Miller, I have cussed at God. My husband has punched furniture and said, I'm never going to church again. Don't even talk to me. So we had gone all out for ministry, and we crashed and burned. And I think that what we did was we, like Abraham, tried to get ahead of God, and we got an Ishmael, not an Isaac, when we just should have waited and calmed down and taken steps. And we didn't, but we still did what we thought was right. Now, we took a break from ministry, ain't mad at the world, for about 18 months or so. Not even that, probably like half a year. And this one day, what we did is we went back to have a marketing company, because I used to do big marketing plans, like for like DoubleTrees and Hiltons, and they would spend $25,000 at a time. And I made my boss $1 million. And I said, I can open my own marketing company, sell to small businesses, and I can make myself 50 grand a year. And I couldn't. Like, I could not get $300 and $400 out of a local Tallahassee business, because they were like, I don't know, I don't have the money. And I'm thinking, oh my word, like, this is not what I thought. And so it didn't work. And I know that's because that's not what God had for us. Thank you, Emily. And so in this time, we start this marketing company. We had slow pay, we had no pay, we had backouts. I got pregnant with child number 6, not planned. Child number 5 was diagnosed with Asperger's. He was not speaking, and he should have been. He had tantrums like you would not believe, just screaming, for shrill screams for hours. And he couldn't communicate, so you didn't know what was wrong. And it would be like you put the left sock on before the right, or his shirt felt funny, right, or his fingers felt funny, something he touched, and it would just go on and on. And so we were a wreck. I also came to find out I had a food allergy, but the doctors thought that I had multiple sclerosis. I actually ended up paralyzed from the waist down for quite a while. I mean, just crazy stuff happened. So fast forward, we stopped ministry, start a marketing company, all this stuff's happening with our family. Our kids are teenagers and they're brats, and then we are starting a family over again, and that's not quite exactly what we meant to do. And so my kids aren't brats anymore. They're wonderful adults on their own, lovely. But I mean, at that time, that's how.
Give them a minute. They'll cycle back through. That's
how Mama was feeling. I was like, ah. So we lose this business. Like, we had rented this complex, and we had other businesses renting from us. And it was a Monday. It was April, I think the 20th or 19th of 2012. Our lights were going to be cut off at the company. We couldn't pay the rent. We had to tell everybody that they didn't have a place to rent. We had to lay off employees that had moved to Tallahassee to work for us and rent apartments. had to get my kid out of daycare. I couldn't pay for that. And I don't know what to do with him. It was like my only break to not have a screaming child. I'm pregnant, I'm sick, and I go home. I pick my other kids up at school and I go home and the door's wide open. Everything is gone. Our house has been robbed. Everything is gone but furniture. They and it's somebody actually that we had helped that had worked for us and had gone back on crack, and so they knew our schedule, and I swear pulled over the U-Haul.
Sometimes that happens when we help people.
And they sold diapers and wet wipes, and I think at this point we had about $35 in the bank account. And I went outside, and my husband had to go to Walmart because we didn't have like anything to get through the night. They stole blankets off the bed. And so he went to try to get like a couple of bath towels and a sheet set. That's all we could afford. And some diapers, again, for our baby. And I sat in the yard the next day. Actually, I took a shower and I sat in the yard and I said, I took a shower and I get out of the shower and I open my drawer and I realize all my clothes are gone too. And at this point, I am fat, I am pregnant, and there's nothing in my house. And now I'm also naked. And I was very humbled.
Yeah.
And crying hard. And so I put my dirty clothes back on and I went and sat in the yard and I'm watching Ethan, who's now 10, and the Lord has delivered him. Like, you cannot tell anything is wrong. He is bright. And people are like, he was ever diagnosed with anything? But that's another story. So I'm sitting in the yard because when the house was so empty, it would echo. And I was ready to end my life. And I just sat there and I said, Lord, I know that you don't make bad things happen to people, but you can allow them. And there's a lesson. And I said, please let the lesson be over. Whatever it is I need to do, either show me what I need to do or take me home because I'm ready to not live anymore. And God sat down right beside me in the yard. And he said, what would you do if you could do anything you wanted to? And I said, well, I would like to be a missionary or a pastor, but that didn't work out. And he said, well, do you trust me? And I said, no, look at my life.
Yeah.
And he said, well, think back to ministry when you were doing it. And it was tight. It was tough. Did you ever miss a house payment? And I said, no. And he said, when did you stop ministry? And I said, 8 months ago. He said, when did you make your last house payment? I said, 8 months ago. And he said, how's trusting yourself working out? And I said, not very good. And he said, so I'll ask you again. If you could do anything that you wanted and your family was taken care of, what would you like to do with your life? And I said, I would like to be a missionary or a pastor. And he said, well, why don't you do that? And I said, well, I failed once at it.
How did you get to the mission that you're on now? What made you, obviously you did something differently. And tell me about your mission now, what you do now, how we all can help.
Sure.
And spread the good work you and your husband have started.
So that's where City Walk started, was that day. We actually got an insurance check that we did not expect to have. And we were like, we're not going to buy back all this junk. So I went and rented a building in Midtown. And we put a thrift store in it because we didn't know what else we were going to do. We didn't know how to apply for a grant. Still don't know how to apply for a grant. And we started doing that.
You should take advantage of some social work interns and volunteers. There's a lot. There's three colleges of social work in our area. And so there's not a lack of people who can help you with that. So because they know how to do that.
Yeah, they know from grant writing.
There's money. There's money.
Right. I definitely will if there's any grant writers that could help us out. So 8 years ago, we launched City Walk. And then about 8 months into City Walk, we were working with some men who were homeless and they were staying at the old shelter on Tennessee Street. And the Lord told us to give up our house. And I said, well, where are we going to live? Because we couldn't afford to go buy a home or rent a home to put people in that were getting out of prison or coming out of the street. And so God said, it's your house. So I started packing, but I said, where do you want us to go live? And he didn't clearly let us know that. So there was a time where we were homeless and homeless people lived in our house. It was about 6 weeks. And then we rented the house that we're in now that we were able to purchase. Now we have 2 men's homes. Then COVID hit, everything's going great. Hundreds of men have gone through our program. City Walk's rocking and rolling. We've got a food pantry, a clothes closet. We've got these prison reentry programs. And then fast forward to March 18th, 2020, and the whole world shuts down. Now, as I mentioned, we are a church. And so a lot of our people, actually probably 95% of them, are unhoused. They are either out of shelter in a program, and they would come to North Monroe Street where we have a chapel, and we would see them when we would worship and fellowship and everything. And then we would leave and go home, and they would go back to the street. I couldn't take it anymore after the COVID shut everything down. Because here's what happened in the city of Tallahassee, and this is not bad about anybody in Tallahassee. Like none of us have ever navigated a pandemic before. And so the world shut down. I went to preach my last sermon. We had all the chairs outside 6 feet apart, and churches weren't meeting anymore. And I said, well, this will be when I say bye for now. And like 30 extra people showed up, and they were walking from everywhere. And I'm like, that's great for a pastor, but that's not normal. So where did all these people come from? And one of our unsheltered clients or parishioners said, well, normally they're all at Grace Mission eating, but Grace Mission had a note on the door and they're closed for now. And we have nowhere to go to the bathroom, nowhere to take a shower, nowhere to get our clothes washed, and we can't eat every day. And then a bunch of other people said, the Kearney Center's closed. Some people are going to hotels, but we're living in the woods. And then all the restaurants shut. So I'm looking at all of the stuff that shut down. The senior center shut down. All of these places where they could go and just wash their hands, go to the bathroom, get a cup of coffee, are gone. And so this one woman had tears in her eyes, and she wasn't angry, upset. She was just despondent. And she said, well, I guess this is the end. This is just how we die. We'll die out here. And I turned around and I was like, no. And God was like, you can't close. So I turned around and I said, we're not going to close. We're not going to meet for church. The thrift store will not be open, but you show up here every single day at 12 o'clock and we will have a hot meal. I know you can't wash your clothes, change your clothes. I'm going to put clothes outside from our donations where our clothes closet will be open every day at noon. Here's a bucket and hose and a water spigot. And we're going to give you hygiene products every day.
So sometimes sometimes that's what you need. And that's what somebody needs to say, listen, don't give up on yourself. I'm not going to give up on you. Don't you give up on you. Rose and Lori, let me start with you, Lori, because you know Renee, you booked her as the guest. You love her story. Tell me what it is that inspired you to want the world and the community around us that City Walk serves. What was it that you wanted to bring to our guests? I think your mic might be off.
Yep. There we go. We should be good. So what hit me is last week or 2 weeks ago, I started thinking, it's the holiday season. I wanted my family to help out. And I was like, but how do I help out? The, Kearney Center's closed. You can't just drop off stuff.
I didn't know that. Let me stop you for a minute.
And I didn't
for
know
all of
that
our
either.
let me stop you for I didn't know this because think about it. Most of us don't really concern ourselves with things that don't directly impact us. And this is the time of year we need to be, brushing off our empathy skills and thinking about things like this. It never occurred to me that the Kearney Center wouldn't be open, but why would it be open? They're right there on top of each other. They can't be. They're going to be one of the first places. And how do you practice social distancing in those environments? So I'm so
want
glad
to speak to
know.
that just on their behalf, though.
Yeah.
The Kearney Center on Pensacola Street is closed. However, they did cohort clients in hotels. The problem, though, where the gap is that there's hundreds of people on the waiting list to get to those hotels, and it's not
who pays
instant.
for the hotels? Are the hotels doing this pro bono, or is there a discount?
No,
who's
being paid for. I can't speak directly to that.
Yeah,
I know, but
that's a kind of a quasi killing two birds, because those people who have those hotels and stuff, they need some revenue. Some is better than none. And of course, we can't put people right on top of each other.
Right.
So I'm glad to hear about that, but I wonder how this stuff gets paid for. So the whole reason we wanted to bring you on the show is to learn about your mission and your passion, of course, but also to find out how people can help when they want to help. Is it better? Because so many people want to go to Publix and donate food. Well, I used to be on the board of the food bank, and I know that's not the best way to do it. You're better off giving money to the food bank, and the food bank can buy more. They're almost like the Walmart of purchasing, so that your dollar can go so much further. And I think about people who give away clothes. You know, I have a lot of clothes, I have linens, I have housewares, but does that just end up in a landfill? What's the best way to contribute to help the people with right now the needs? Like you're talking about COVID. We're not talking about the regular world where there are already unmet needs. Got that all day long. What in this post-COVID world, you know, what's the best way for people who want to give back?
So a lot more people are experiencing homelessness or being unsheltered. And when I say unsheltered, I mean they are outside. Like they're not even living in a car or something. They are just on the sidewalk. So we opened an emergency shelter last month on the 20th, and we have 60 beds full already. And as soon as we open more floors, we'll have those full. But you're right. Like we get food from Second Harvest and Farm Share. And so your dollars that you spend at Publix are not,
they're not going to go
kind of wasted dollars.
As far. They really are.
Not nearly as far. I can get 12 cents a pound food.
You're making money for Publix, and Publix is doing okay.
Yeah.
You know, nothing against Publix. I love Publix. But
people love giving us blankets. We're a shelter. You would think that would be great. But with COVID, okay, we have got to use Alsco because they get them to the hospital temperature, and they give us the linens, and then they go in their bags, and then they go off, and then they replace them. If I get sheets from somebody, and like somebody out of the kindness of their heart went to Bedfellows and bought us sheets, I will have to throw them away in a week because I'm not laundering them at my house, and Alsco won't launder stuff that's not theirs, and they're not going to launder them, and so that's not a good fit. So with the amount of people that are being served in homelessness, whether you want to support City Walk or another one, cash is obviously king, because there's so many things that people don't think about that gets donated, that doesn't get donated. So people are like, oh, everything gets donated, you're a nonprofit. I'm like, the city of Tallahassee charged $8,900 for us to turn our lights on. That was our deposit for the shelter. That's not getting donated, and the rent is well over like $150,000.
Do you ever approach the elected officials about things like that? Because I
know
but
they can't just push a button.
Find that unconscionable.
Yeah, but they can't just override what their staff does. I mean, it's a process, but
yeah, but I find that unconscionable. I can't think of a.
I find it unconscionable too, but
I can't think of a rational basis for that.
I can't either, because we're on auto pay, and we have 8 years of history, and we have several locations of other stuff going on with them. And I would think, but
Rose, I'd like to hear from you. Rose, what are your thoughts? You've listened to Renee, and you know what we're trying to do on the EmPower Hour, and you know what we deal with every day as personal injury lawyers. You know, we have clients come in here who one automobile accident can put them on the street. Rose, what are you thinking? What are your thoughts, and what do you want to hear about today from Rose?
Well, I mean, I think that's, all true. Everyone is, well, not everyone, but a lot of people are struggling. A lot of people were struggling before COVID. They're struggling outside of the holiday season. They're struggling, to make ends meet, and then something like losing their job for COVID, or the shelter closing down as their one reprieve from anything. And so, anything that I'm very fascinated with what Renee was just talking about, with the best ways to donate to stretch those funds.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you could do. There's, grassroots movements. I could go and, hand an unhoused person a bottle of water, and that maybe improves their day for 15 minutes, but that's, there's better other things that I could be doing. So I would like to hear more about what we can do. Just cash, dollars is the best.
Cash is great. If you don't have that,
I'm thinking cash,
but
volunteerism and donations. So
your cells are great.
Of the three, cash, donations, donations in kind, like things that you have, and then donation of time, services. So volunteerism, giving you stuff, and giving you money. How would you rank those? Because all the people who watch the EmPower Hour, they come from different phases of life, different walks of life. But all of us, I think, share this in common, is that we want to make this world a little bit better for everybody, because we think a rising tide, raises all boats. So
Right.
of those things, well, how would you tell people, pretend I have nothing but time, pretend I have nothing but money, and pretend I'm somewhere in the middle? What would you tell us?
So if you have nothing but time, time is wonderful and it's so valuable. I can't be everybody's friend, confidant, counselor, and we need ladies and gentlemen. Like if you're a woman who it just has time and you want to show up there at dinner time and you want to sit with the ladies, they would love to tell you about their day. They don't have friends, they don't have husbands and people that they can just call. They need to unload and just talk. They're not just to ask you for stuff, but just they want to talk about where they're at and what they're doing, and
That
they
can help
need
so
that.
much with the people who are lonely. You know, that's the one
Yes,
thing
they're
COVID,
lonely.
COVID is,
Feel like a
people are
person.
lonely. I love this. That's a
If
good
you teach
solution.
art
Yeah.
and you want to come and do a painting class, I'll set
Love
you
it.
up.
Love
You know,
it.
if you want to do crafts or something for the Christmas, they would
Writing.
love that. And then if you have maybe you have a skill, like we need things painted. We need stuff scraped off so we can paint. We need our acoustical ceiling fixed. Maybe you know how to do plumbing repairs or something. Like we need that kind of skilled stuff. Or
Yeah.
if you have items that are sellable, you can donate to the thrift store. No, it doesn't end up in a landfill. We recycle millions of pounds of things, but we'll either sell that so we can make money to pay our expenses, or we'll give that to somebody that needs it. And then if you do have cash, here's the raw numbers. In addition to everything else City Walk does, just the shelter component is $33,000 a month in cash expenses.
That's
And
a lot of money, lady.
we don't have that. This was God told us to do it, and I know that he will be faithful. So we're counting on that, and he'll be faithful. He's never let us down before. Even when I thought he did, he really didn't. I know it's the EmPower Hour, and I don't want to go over, but if I could share one story, and it's the one I shared with you yesterday.
I want you to, please.
Okay, so I know we have an idea of what homelessness looks like. If you were to pull up in your car with me to any intersection, I know their names and I could tell you their drug of choice, their addiction, what kind of beer they like, and how much they get every month. That's not who we're seeing at the shelter.
Okay.
Yes. Well, you give money if you want to, but I know who they are, and I know that they do not have to be homeless. Some of them, that's not a blanket statement. That's just the majority. And people are like, oh, why don't they just go get a job, blah, blah, blah. That's not who is at our shelter.
Yeah.
Maybe for a night or two, that's not who. The majority of people there are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. Because why? Wow. They had a stroke and couldn't afford to pay they had to choose between
don't get me started on why we don't have universal health care.
Okay, so not enough, they're falling through the cracks. So we have one woman who is housed until November the 23rd. She was housed on November or 24th, sorry, the day before Thanksgiving. And she's 70 years old, and she was at an apartment complex. They would not renew her lease because they were going to renovate and turn it into a different kind of apartment complex. I'm sure she was warned. I'm sure she had time, but she's very old and needy and not as cognitive as perhaps she used to be. So she's out on the street, and she comes to us. She was out for one night by herself on the street, and she came to us on Thanksgiving Day. She's on kidney dialysis 3 times a week. She's never taken public transportation, scared to death to get on a bus. She misses her little dog that she had to leave behind at a neighbor's house. She doesn't know how a cell phone works. She has no caretaker, no family. She just sits in front of my desk every night and cries and says, please help me. Please help me. And I know, you know what, honestly, if we don't get her into some kind of permanent housing, she's just going to die. Like, she's literally giving up on life. It's terrible. Like, grandma is reduced to a duffel bag, and these are her golden years, and the only thing I can do is cry with her and say, sweetheart, it's not supposed to end this way. I know that
I'm thinking about, though, when you tell me this, I'm a fixer. So my wheel is going, and I'm thinking to myself of all of the people that I know who find themselves 50, 60, 70, they're in good health, mental, physical health. They've got resources, but they've got a lot of time on their hand. They've got a lot of love to give. And a lot of times I think about these people. You ever hear about the babies who are born addicted to substances?
Yes, and they get
held. People come in and just hug them in the middle of the night. You know, I always thought I would do that because I can't sleep. And I thought, oh, I wish I could just show up at TMH and hug a baby for 3 hours and go back home to sleep. But hug an elderly person, hug a homeless person. My grandmother was a very loving, generous person. And I remember she raised 7 children, and then some of them became ill, and she cared for them as adults. And then some of them had children, and those children she ended up raising. And she was always just a mother. She was mothering, raising all the time. And I remember one time she told me she was considering adopting or fostering some children. And I thought to myself, lady, you're crazy. You're so busy, you have so much going on. But then now, the mature Dana thinks, of course she would. Why wouldn't she? It's her form of ministry. It's something she has mastered, something she does very, very well. But I bet you anything, I bet we've got some watchers in the EmPower Hour who have a lot of love left to give, who can share, just talk to these people, help them say, hey, here's a place you can go and learn how to cook, or here's a class at the senior center or the Renaissance, whatever center, that'll teach you how to use a smartphone. I just feel like
The thing with those though, they're all shut down because of COVID.
Yeah, but you know what? So what? I don't accept that.
But yeah, you can come and do it at City Walk. We got lots of offices.
Whatever, you could do things, but I'm just saying, there's so many. I feel like we need some linking, because there's so many lonely people because of COVID. There's a lot of people that their job was their social interaction, and so now they're isolated. I just feel like this is a wonderful time to bring a bunch of people together. Lori, you got cut off a little bit earlier. You were really turned on to Renee's mission, and you know her, and you've been by the facility. Let me hear your thoughts before we stop today's EmPower Hour. What are you charged up about with charity and giving?
Well, I guess my biggest mission was just to get the word out about this, that there's someone out there actually taking care of everyone who's been left behind out there. And I wanted to know how to help. And I was talking with my kids, and we're actually going to not spend as much money on Christmas and see what we can do to give to Renee's mission.
Yeah.
Won't be much. I don't have a whole lot to give, but it's something. And I feel like if everybody could do something like that, it could make an impact. And
you know what? You've got boys. You got three young strapping boys. They probably could go to the mission and help build some bunk beds or strip some furniture.
Absolutely could.
We have so many things to offer. And gosh, doesn't it feel good when you do something like that? I love the feeling of changing somebody's life and giving back. And I know that that's great for children. When our children were growing up, my husband and I raised three girls together, very similar in age, and they were very privileged little girls. And we wanted to make sure they appreciated that and understood it. And so at Christmas, we would have them go, not just buy some stuff, oh, here's some charity stuff, throw it in the buggy. It'd be like, what do you think a child who doesn't have what you have would need and would want? We made them really walk it and think about it. And my husband had his daughters particularly bring the things that they bought up to the TMH pediatric ward and see what a child might live life who has a chronic what they might live like if they have a chronic disease and they're stuck in the hospital over the holidays. So empathy, that's why I like what Renee is saying about, we'd love your money all day long, of course, but your time, and you're coming in here and letting people see that the world hasn't forgotten about them, that you care enough to make sure they've got a chest of drawers to put their things in, that you care enough to make sure they've got a good, clean, blanket tonight. So I just love it. Rose, do you have anything else you want to end with today before we give Renee the final few minutes here?
Just that this has sort of been enlightening on, what is most needed. I've been sort of thinking about what I'm going to do for my sort of year-end, Christmas giving or contributing. And I'm not, religious person. I'm not a Christmas person. But it is a hard time of year for so many people, either because, there's the pressure to, make something special for their kids, and they're already stretched trying to make ends meet. Now here's something else they have to do, or they're, separated from their family, either due to circumstances like COVID or poverty or estrangement, and they're alone. So this has been nice and eye-opening about things that not only you can physically give, but give yourself.
Contributions. We raised our children in the Lutheran church, which there's not a whole lot of Lutherans around here. But our pastor, we had the same pastor for very many years, Rick Eckert, and I genuinely adored the man. I had so much respect for him, but he said this, he goes, let me tell you what a Christian is. A Christian is somebody who, how they live their life, they make other people look at them and go, if that's a Christian, I want to be one. Sign me up. And that has always been my measure. And Renee, I think you walk that talk every day. And I want to applaud your faith, your commitment to your faith. And boy, has it been tested. So good to you. I want you to close today with the final thoughts you want our people to hear, and what they can do to help you in your mission, your husband's mission, and all the good you're doing in the world. And thank you for that. I think you may be on mute though.
Oh,
There we go. Oh,
So
I'm not hearing you.
Just
I hear
quiet.
you. I hear you.
I don't hear her. Let me see.
Technical difficulty at the last minute.
Uh-oh, technical.
No.
Can't hear you.
Keep talking, Renee.
Okay, so
Here you go.
I want
There
to
you
let people know that I'm glad, Rose, that you brought up that you're not religious or do Christmas. I want to let people know that we are a low threshold, low barrier shelter. So as long as you can come in and calm down and like not be violent, you're in. You can come in drunk, you can come in high, and you can volunteer and love the mission if you're not a Christian. I don't care if you have a different faith or no faith. We are faith-based nonprofit because of our faith,
Sure.
not because of the faith of those we serve or who serves with us. We have a special training on how to care for people with different gender identities, different sexual orientations. And we get that question a lot, like, oh, you're a Christian, so obviously you exclude this, and this. And we are Christians, so obviously we include this,
right.
and this.
Right.
So I know that there are some stereotypes that so that people may have misconceptions about, and I just wanted to let you know that that's not us. And so we appreciate everybody's involvement, no matter where they're at in their walk, in their faith, and what they believe in. Some of our best supporters are atheists and Hindus and Muslims, and so we appreciate that. But thank you for not only for Tallahassee being my home. I really love this city, and I do feel very supported. But also thank you for loving the people that are here, and not just people that are in your in group, but people that are in your out group. And I think that Tallahassee is a city of empathy. We don't have it other places. There's not like there is in Tallahassee is not like this in other counties.
You're right. I am
everywhere.
so proud.
So,
I'm so proud of where I live, aren't you?
I am very proud of Tallahassee.
Renee, can I ask you one more thing before we close? Can you tell us how to reach you? What someone needs to do if they want to volunteer, and how someone can give you money? How do they help you?
Okay, so you can go to our website at citywalkmission.com. There's also a page about crisis intervention services. If you run into somebody, show them that page of the website, when our food pantry is open, where our shelter is, all of that. So citywalkmission.com. My email is the same. It's renee@citywalkmission.com. And I'll go ahead and put my cell phone out there if anybody wants to call me. It's 850-631-2990. And that's me. If you call the mission, you're going to get gatekeepers. They'll tell you I don't even work there anymore, but that's my cell phone. So you'll get me. And thank you so much for having us.
Sure. Let me ask you one more thing. Now, this place I pass in Midtown, that's right at the little, the place where you fork to go north on Thomasville, right?
No, we're not there anymore. We're on Monroe, right before you get to Fifth Avenue. It's the old Apogee Signs building.
Okay.
Oh, right.
And so, so now, is that your shelter also?
No, that's not our shelter. Our shelter's over off Mahan. The thrift store, outreach center, food pantry is all here at North Monroe, and the shelter's elsewhere.
Now, is that open like for retail? Like, can somebody just go in there and buy some thrift things and give you money?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Great. Okay, well, I'm super excited. Thank you for making the time. I know it's the holidays and everybody's busy, so just giving us, this hour on a Thursday is a big deal. I know you're being pulled in many directions, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I have one last thing.
Yes,
one last thing. I just had an idea. I am going to go Christmas shopping at your thrift store.
Nice.
And I'm going to go see what I can find. I think that's something everybody could do.
Yep. 100%.
Awesome.
100%. I love it. And think about donations, because I'm getting ready to do a,
Mhm.
Sherman through Georgia cleaning of my house. So I'm probably
Yeah.
gonna have some stuff. But anyway, thank you, Lori. Thank you, Rose, again. Thank you, Renee. Thank you all for tuning in for this other, just one more episode of the Empower Hour. If you have something you want to share with us, something you think is empowering that can be good and uplifting for women and people who love them, call us, contact us, Dana@facingbrooks.com. My cell is 850-766-2825. Text me though, because I will not pick up a phone call. So anyway, y'all have a good week, and we will see you next Thursday for another episode of the Empower Hour by the Empower Plant, brought to you by Facing Brooks. Thank you.
Bye.